Hey guys, I am filming this in Jamaica. I have an absolutely stunning view of the beach and the ocean outside, and it's absolutely glorious. However, that does mean if the sound isn't as great as usual, because I'm trying to get the light in here, I've also got AC in so that I don't overheat and so the camera doesn't overheat and all of that. So apologies, but hopefully everything's all right. I thought that I would do this video as a little bit of Q&A about the wedding, the questions, where everything was from, all of that business. I know that this is a topic that, whether you're thinking about getting married, whether you're planning a wedding, all of that, there's some things that were definitely a waste of money, some things that are worth every penny, and everything. And I'm just so happy with how ours went down. It very much felt like us, and there are a few reasons as to why that sort of happened. But yes, I'm going to go into the nitty-gritty. Guys, if you're new here, my name is Cassie and I'm a self-diagnosed luxury addict. I put out videos on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, so if you like luxury fashion, then you're probably going to love it here, and apparently the odd bit of wedding content. So head down there, subscribe, turn on the bell, become a member of our luxury addicted family. When are we going to rehab? Never. Okay. So, was there any family dramas? I'm dealing with a fiance who wants his family very involved. My family is the opposite. This is actually a big reason as to why I think we ended up with the wedding we ended up with, which was what we wanted, which was that we were extremely strict with our parents. We were literally like, and also like, you know, Nee is, his parents are from Ghana, my mum's also obviously half Ghanaian and all of this business. There is a very big culture of just like inviting everybody who maybe, you know, has something to do with you, some aunt that you've not seen in sodding 10 years and so on and so forth. And Nee and I were very strict about, we're not having any of that. We are literally just having, like, in terms of the adults, we're having our immediate family and maybe like very close family friends, but that is it. Everybody else is like our guests basically. And I think because of that, the vibe felt very young and fresh, which is what we wanted. We had the music we wanted. Nobody sort of felt like, oh, you know, we've got to play this music because there's a big cohort of people that aren't going to enjoy the music we like. So I think because of that, we were very like, this is what we're doing. No, you can't weasel yourself an invite. Believe me, both sides of the family tried. But yeah, so we were very strict, but we were both on the same page with that. So I'm not sure like what your situation is, but we were very much like both sides are being treated the same here, right? And that is nobody. Let's pause for the plane. Yeah, both sides of the family were treated equally as well, even though sort of Nee has a much bigger family than mine. But yeah, so that's how we did it. Okay, there are many questions about the boots, the shoes, what are they, where are they from, all of that. So I'm going to take this opportunity to sort of break down my look and also talk about Nee's look, the fashions, my mother's 3 looks, all of that. Okay, so my entire look from top to toe was Berta. I wasn't expecting to go for this dress. I'd actually seen this dress by itself with the boots on their Instagram, maybe like, gosh, maybe 2 or 3 years now. And I was like, that's gonna be my after party dress. Like, I'm gonna change into that. And when I got to the fitting, bearing in mind, I'd maybe tried on about 20 dresses before. And although some of them were objectively beautiful, I've got a video sort of going through some of the ones that I tried. Some of them are absolutely horrendous. But the ones that were just like Vivienne Westwood, I was like, this is so beautiful. This is a beautiful dress, but I don't feel like me at all. There's a hermit crab. I feel like I'm dressing up. And went into this fitting, had my sales associate, is that what they're called in bridal shops? Whatever. Anyway, so she was like, I was like, oh, I would definitely want to try this on. And she said, oh, there's, you know, also like a veil that can go with it if you want a veil, but we also do like this cape as well. And so I picked that and some other dresses to try on. And when we were in the changing room, she was like, should we just do the most dramatic first? Which was this full look. And we did it. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I could not stop smiling. And I didn't want to take it off. And I was walking around like a little fairy. And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like a Barbie princess. My mum was on FaceTime and she was like, that's it. Don't try anything else on. That's the one. My dad, after we'd already like decided really, like then and there I was like, I think this is going to be it. straight after the appointment, he was like, I'm allowed to see, Nee's just not allowed to see. So we sent him a video, and I was like, call me back as soon as you've seen the video. And he called me back, and it was like silent on the other side, on the line. And then he just went, spectacular. It's so you. And as soon as he said that, tears. I hadn't cried up until that point. I was literally just like smiling to myself like an idiot in the mirror. But then I was like, oh my gosh, like if Dad said it, then that's me. So the boots are like, it's like a fully integrated legging, okay? You know, sort of, dare I say, it's very similar to something like the Balenciaga Panta boot, okay? It's like that, but it's mesh, fully sequined. They take your shoe size, they measure your legs, everything. And yeah, I weed twice. TMI, I weed twice during the night because it was just like, I can't be bothered with all of this rigmarole. But they looked so good, and I think that it really brought this like edge and unexpectedness. Somebody else asked if I knew I was going to do a short dress. No, that was the only short dress I tried on. I just thought, I don't know why I didn't think I was going to have a short dress, but as soon as I saw that with the boots, I was like, the cape gives the drama that I want. It's like walking down the aisle. The veil on top of it that's like glittered, that's obviously so-me, of course it's got to be glittery, that just was like, it just looked so dramatic. And I love that. And then I love the fact that I could take off layers because, like I said, I'd always intended to do more than one outfit, but with the cost of this whole look, I was like, I've got to get my money's worth. There's no way I'm wearing this for 2 hours to suddenly change into something else. So that's why I ended up like, so down the aisle we did the full thing. For the dinner, I ended up taking off the cape. I wanted New York street shots, okay? And it had been raining right before. I got the shots, but that cape was full of everything, including excrement from birds, right? I was gonna say at least it wasn't a person, but anyway, that went straight to dry cleaners. So there was no way I was gonna wear that. I was actually going to wear that to the dinner, but I'm glad I didn't, because that was a lot to maneuver. So I kept the veil on for the dinner, and then for the dancing, I changed in terms of my like jewelry. So I did the hair went up, and I bought these 2 Swarovski necklaces, stacked them on top of each other, Swarovski ear cuffs, Swarovski earrings, so that it was just like bling, glamour. I was free, I was fun, like it was just, loved it. So that was me. My mum wore, I literally have a list here because I don't want to forget. My mum wore, so her dress for down the church was a Ghanaian designer called Yartel. The whole thing was fully beaded. It was exquisite. She wore Yartel, Nee's mum wore Yartel, as did Nee's aunt. So the 3 of them were in this Ghanaian designer, and it's made out of a traditional like woven material called kente. So that was really great. My mum then changed into, I literally blinked and my mum came back and was in Roberto Cavalli, which actually she thought that she was going to wear for like the dancing bit, but then a week or 2 before the wedding she went to Harrods and found this dress, which is by, I think, Maria Lucia. Could there be one more name in this? Possibly, it'll be on the screen. This like really beautiful blue lilac off the shoulder. My mum looked phenomenal. She was giving mermaid realness the whole day, as she should. So that was mum. Nee was in Cad and the Dandy, which is actually a Savile Row company, you know, London Savile Row. But he did it all in New York. Of course, Christian took him to the fittings and got him all done, and he just looked sharp and timeless and just fabulous. His bow tie was Hermes, not that you can tell because it's just a black bow tie, and his shoes were Magnani. And Nia's a diva, let me tell you. Nee is very fussy about, like, he doesn't like going shopping because he doesn't like to try things on. So that was already something. And then the shoes, it was like, oh, it's tight and I want to be dancing all night and whatever, and all that bit's pinching and everything. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is Cinderella. And then he literally slipped his feet into these Magnani ones and was like, oh my gosh, they're so comfortable. So that was a done deal. So that was him. Oh, and his shirt was Ascot Tang, and his cufflinks and shirt studs were Aspinall of London. My dad, I had to include my dad in this because my dad was in, I love how I've just completely forgotten about the questions. I will go back to them. Sorry, I just got very into the fashion. My dad was in an M&S special. Shout out to my dad. That man is a salt of the earth Yorkshireman. M&S. How do I explain Marks and Spencer to people that haven't been to England? It's sort of like, it's like premium high street / high street, but he looked great. And his tie was Alexander McQueen. That tie he's had for ages. He wore that to my Leavers Ball when I was 18. And his shoes were unclear, I'll ask him. Maybe Santoni, I can't remember. But he looked incredible as well. Christian was in a custom suit. He wore a custom suit to my the big day and also to my welcome dinner. Gosh, I've not even told you about the welcome dress. I'll tell you about that in a second. And he sewed on the ostrich feathers himself. What more is there to say? And he was in Celine boots. My welcome dress was Wiederhoft. And we were not going to have a welcome party until this dress came about, because I went to the fitting. I've had my wedding dress look, whatever, for 18 months. It's literally been in storage. Like, I've had it for ages. And I booked this Wiederhoft appointment at the end of last year just to sort of see. I knew that I wasn't going to get my wedding look again because I'd already got it. But I tried on this sodding dripping whole look. I actually thought I was going to get my hen do look from there. But that whole thing was a spanner in the works. Anyway, tried this on and I was like, this is incredible. That was on the 20th of September. In January I made the order because I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I was like, wouldn't it be nice to do a welcome party? Great, I've got something to wear for it. So there we go. What was my favourite part of the wedding? Nee's been asking me this question. I can't give you one. I really can't. I'm going to give you one from each sort of section of the wedding. So the church was the homily by the Reverend, because we've been going there pretty regularly, so he knows us quite well. And it was just really nice to have these like really personal little moments that he added in. When it came to the dinner, it was the speeches. The food was phenomenal, but the speeches, everybody killed it. Shout out to the best man, Patrick, also known as Quabs. I didn't know he had it in him. I didn't know he was going to be that good. He was absolutely incredible. Just the perfect mix of like funny and a little bit heartwarming and very on the nose of Nee, and telling just the best stories. And then for the dancing, oh gosh. I want to say it was our first dance, but I'd be lying. It was right at the end of the night where I had my moment to rap Lil Wayne and Millie, because I've been training for that moment for many, many, many years. How long did it take to plan? I had wedding planners. My wedding planners are a charming fate. I found them from a bride's article that I found the day after I got engaged, which was like 100 best wedding planners in the US. I picked 5 from that list and got in touch with them. Some of them were just like far too snobby for me. Like one of them, I will never forget this, one of them was like, please let us know your wedding budget. We do our best work at $250,000 plus. And I was like, I too can do my best work at $250,000. Yes, that's not the budget that we're working with here. And so that was funny. But they were the most like normal, and they got the vibe. I was like, I want it to be really fun and interesting and different and stuff like that. And they were like, yeah, we can do it. So they were absolutely brilliant. Obviously we had Vegas, then we shifted from Vegas and did this, and they were with us on the whole journey and coming up with new ideas and everything. So I would probably say it take just over a year to plan. Just over a year. Especially, and ours was different because we didn't have wedding venues. I'm really glad we did it this way. So we did church to a restaurant that has a private dining venue, which was Lafayette. Their private dining is like a little wine cellar, so it had like a vibe and an atmosphere already, and it was just perfect. The dancing, we did it at Elsie Rooftop, which is like this rooftop bar. It was just great, and it was just like such a different vibe. And then to transport everybody in between, we had yellow school buses, which was very fun. Though I didn't ride in them. I was too busy, I was like, get me a yellow cab, I need to change. What was my inspiration for my wedding look? I didn't have an inspiration. It was literally just, I put it on and was like, I don't want to take this off. That's it. And yeah, I knew I wanted it to feel very me. I didn't know what that looked like at the time. And I wanted drama, but I also wanted it to be very different. And that was just the perfect mix of everything for me. Things you wouldn't do again and things you wish you did. There were a few things that were just like waste of money. The biggest one, this is so bad, and like it's very painful for Nia and I to talk about. My biggest concern was, I don't want people to be able to say they were bored at my wedding, and I don't want people to say that they weren't fed. So I didn't realise how big the dinner at Lafayette was going to be, because actually this was not a concern at all. But at the dancing, we'd organised to have a food truck. Now, we were in a rooftop bar, so the food truck was meant to be directly on ground level so that people could come down in the lift, grab something, eat, come back up, whatever. It was an empanada food truck, and I was like, great, empanadas, easy to eat. We're not worried about things dribbling on dresses. Excellent, right? So we paid for the food truck, we paid for like 3 hours, everybody just go and help yourself and have a great time. It couldn't park outside of the venue, so it actually parked like around the corner. And because of that, we completely forgot about it. We forgot to tell the DJs to make an announcement. We forgot, and you know, like there's so much going on and people are always like, it's like such a whirlwind that you hardly remember any of it and whatever. And I was just so in the middle of like doing our dances, dancing, trying to talk to people, all of that, that it just completely, and the same thing happened with Nee. Nee ended up, there was some drama because the venue thought that we'd only like been contracted until 1, and we picked that venue because we wanted it until 4. So Nee was busy in Nee mode. Nee is the most chill person until something goes down. If something goes down, the boss hat is on, and he's like, right, no, I'm pulling up the sodding contracts and blah 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 and all of this. He was too busy doing that. I didn't know any of this was happening, la la la, living my best life. And we sodding forgot about the food truck, which is awful. That was like a massive waste of money. So yeah, probably we should have looked into what are the portions like at Lafayette. Do we even need a food truck? And then yes, somebody please remind us to make an announcement, because that was really sad. I also bought this stupid thing called a Mrs. box. It's literally like a little personalised ring box, okay, that you like take your little flat lay pictures with. What a waste of money. I don't even know why I bought it to begin with, because my jeweller gave me a fabulous box that fit my ring. My ring didn't even fit in the sodding box. What am I going to do with this box again? Absolutely nothing. Waste of time, don't do it. This is something that we almost bought, and we didn't, well, almost paid for. So it was at a restaurant, but we still needed to have table rentals. So that is the crockery, the cutlery, the glassware, all of that. Because the ones that came with the ones that the restaurant had are very like French bistro. It was just like a sad little oval plate, okay? And I was like, okay, well, we're gonna have to have something, but you know. Initially, we'd gone to this very, very fancy rentals company. All of the plates were like branded, like we were going to have Dior plates and Ginori plates and all of this business. And then the quote came through and I was like, this is 5 figures. And it's like 1/3 of the cost of the whole dinner and the venue, so this is kind of ridiculous. And that happened like 2 weeks before the wedding, so I just went into complete meltdown mode. And we ended up finding a really great rental company that was less than half of the price of that original one, and the plates were beautiful and the glassware was beautiful, and nobody was sodding going underneath and going, not Ginori, you know, because nobody cares. So that's something that I'm glad we made that decision on. Thing on second thought you would splurge more on. I think that our videography and photography was phenomenal. I've not even seen the videography yet, but I know it's phenomenal. Like, the team worked so hard. I think the only thing that if we'd have had more budget, I would have gotten a second shooter, like an assistant for my photographer, Tone. Tone Wolf, absolutely incredible, does not do weddings, does like editorial, fabulous things, but I knew that I wanted him. He's also a friend. He's also just like the sweetest man in the world. Yeah, and I basically would have gotten him a second shooter so that he could relax just a tiny bit. Okay, hardest, most stressful parts of planning and the wedding itself. Again, I had planners, so it's not like I did this. I could not have done this myself. I'll tell you that now. Absolutely no way in hell. There's so many elements that I just did not think about at all, and like timings and who's going where and who's whatever and all of this. Stressful. I was stressed, but I think I'm just stressed about everything. So every aspect, probably. The fashion was my least stressful part. I knew what I was doing once I'd got my dress squirreled away. Great, thank you. Do you want to know what the biggest stress of the planning is? Other people. It really is. In terms of like, as long as you and whoever you're marrying are on the same page with things and whatever, it's never really you two. It's more other people having their opinion and, oh, you should have this, and oh, you should do this, and oh, blah, 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 blah. That's when it then gets stressful, because then you're starting to overthink yourself, and then you're like, oh, but I thought I wanted this, but then so-and-so thought it was a terrible idea, and blah, 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 blah. So it's other people that are the biggest stress. How many guests do we have? We had 106. I think our initial thing was 110, and then some people couldn't make it for very, very legitimate reasons. Some people... Okay, since this was number 2, like wedding number 2, how were your emotions different this time, or were they? Yeah, and I really didn't expect it, to be honest with you. I think because it felt more of like a... Because there are other people there watching it, okay? When it's just you two, it's like, I suddenly lived with you for 8.5 years, right? Like, well, at the time that we did our legal, like, we've been together 7 years, okay? Like, this isn't, I'm saying these words to you and I mean it, but there's nothing that feels very, like, different, I guess. Whereas this one, it now feels like, oh my gosh, I'm married. Like, I've done this in front of people, you know, people have witnessed it and seen it and whatever. So yeah, it did feel much more emotional, I think, than I was expecting it would. Fun fact. So I get up to the altar, and Nia's like, "Oh my gosh, you look amazing." Okay, and then when we go to sit down for like the readings and everything, he turns to me and goes, "Oh, can't see a thing, not wearing my glasses." So are you a liar? Is that what you are? He was like, I can see like this far in front of me, so I could see you. Yeah, anyway. Okay, budget thoughts. What did you prioritise and what did you not prioritise in the budget? Flowers, it's not a priority for me in general. So that was easy to sort of like be like, okay, I don't need to go full force on the flowers and stuff like that. When it came to the venues, we were very much like, I think that we found venues that we thought were quite reasonably priced for what they are, and like the minimum spend and the food and beverage and whatever. So that was all fine. There was an element of the transport that we had to like cut back on, basically, because I had a very wild idea, which was I wanted us to come out of the church and there to be 30 yellow cabs lined up around the block waiting to take everybody. Now, turns out that this is a logistical nightmare, and really the only ones that we could guarantee were about 10, at which point you're like, well, what about everybody else? And so this is where we were like, let's do the yellow school buses, it's something different. Now the other thing, that turned out to be a good idea, was we wanted a lot of pictures with people, so those yellow cabs would have been staying there for sodding ages. So it was fine, so yes, so we sort of cut back on the transport and we got the yellow buses instead. Well, again, it was like the rentals and stuff like that. We were like, yeah, no, like I really don't care if I have Dior plates at this point. The fashion, I was like, nobody asked me a single question about what I am wearing and if it should not be prioritised and if there should be a budget. I'm having what I'm having, thank you very much. Congratulations! What did your grandmother think of the burlesque dancer? To be honest with you, I don't really... This is because at our welcome dinner we had a burlesque dancer. To be honest with you, she couldn't really see from where she was, which was probably for the best. But also, she isn't particularly bothered, and she would have been like, hey, cool. So there we go, so that was that. My friend is planning a wedding and struggling to set a budget. How did you determine yours? I actually have no idea. At some point, I think that we were just like, okay, what can we feasibly, comfortably save up? Our parents both contributed the same amount as each other. We're obviously only children as well, right? But we still footed the majority of the bill, basically. And we were like, how much do we think we can comfortably save in what ended up being, you know, at that time, maybe like 1.5 years, 2 years. You know, we've been planning this for sodding ages. So that kind of came up. Now I will say, we went over the budget, as everybody says that they do. At one point we were 50% over the budget, and that's where I had to be like, right, rentals were going down, transport were going down, blah, 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 because it just gets... It is very, very easy for this to just become an absolute monster, and you're saying yes to something over here, and you're forgetting about the fact that you said yes to something over here, and blah, 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 and somebody wants their deposit, and somebody wants this, and you've got to pay that by then, and you're like, yes. Somebody else wants, like, all of the vendor details, right, stationery, cake, wedding dresses, venue, bouquet, everything, right. Flowers were by Designs by Anne, A-H-N. really, really beautiful, did what we wanted, were perfectly fine with like, let's get rid of that and add this and whatever else. They also did all of the candles and all of that, which we had a lot of at the dinner. They did my bouquet and everything. Stationery, I love, love, love our stationery. Our invites are beautiful. We also had monogrammed napkins, and the same stationer did our menus. Her name is Alexa Pulitzer. I found out about her when we were on our trip to New Orleans. I went to a stationery shop and I bought some little note cards of hers and like a little notebook. And when I got home, I was like, oh, you know, I want to see what else there is to buy on her website. And I saw that she did wedding stationery. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's incredible. Like, absolutely beautiful, really just like unique and personal and everything, like had our monogram and all of that. She was fantastic. The tablescapes ended up being done by the Tabletop Company, I believe that's their name. Venues, as I said, we were St. Bart's Church, Lafayette Restaurant, Elsie Rooftop, ELSIE, cake. So this was our second cake. If you followed any of the other vlogs, like even before the wedding vlogs, I mentioned how we initially had one cake company and we did the tasting and it was not for us. It tasted like there was zero sugar that had been added. And I'm not going to say who it was or whatever because it was a beautiful cake and that will be perfect for some people who, you know, aren't. Maybe we're just sugar fiends, I don't know. Anyway, found this other cake company, absolutely beautiful. The company is called Peory, Peory. Yes, absolutely beautiful. All of the flowers were buttercream. I don't know how that's possible. We did the tasting, absolutely delicious. We ended up going with a vanilla bean sponge and a blueberry compote. Fun fact, Nee was actually really annoyed that he didn't get to eat much of the cake. Cake is Nee's favourite dessert. He is a cake man. Basically, our wedding planners had mentioned this to our cake designer and she has very kindly and very generously offered to deliver him a personal cake, all for his lonesome to enjoy. I'll have a bite, and that she's going to get delivered to us as a gift. So that was very kind. We also had an electric violinist for the dinner who was incredible. Her name is Monica Ree Martin. Apparently, like, listen, she is doing housewives weddings, she's doing celebrity weddings, absolutely phenomenal, will play whatever you want. She was like, what kind of music do you want? We were like, R&B, sort of hip hop, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, perfect. And was just really set the vibe. It was really great in there, especially with like the atmosphere. It was just perfect. I've remembered another thing that we ended up regrouping on in order to stay somewhat within budget. The initial seating plan idea that we had was to have these little metal yellow taxis, little New York taxis, that we were going to engrave everybody's name and table number on. We were also going to have a map of New York that you could pluck it from and take it to your table. That was going to be a couple of thousand, right? Which for a table seating plan, to me is ridiculous. It was going to be like 2,000 something, well, whatever. Anyway, so we were like, okay, let's come up with another idea. And this idea ended up being much more sentimental. Our wedding planners came up with it. And we basically got postcards, vintage New York postcards, and we did a turnstile. So people like went to, like you were in a little tourist shop to find out where you were. And on one side of the postcard, it had the person's name and table number. And on the other side, we had come up with individual messages for everybody. So some of them had like little inside jokes, or do you remember when we did this, or, you know, whatever. So everybody had that, and everybody's was different and personalized, and that was such a great and that was literally like a couple of $100s to do as opposed to thousands. So, and I think that it felt much more heartfelt than doing the initial option. Our calligrapher for that was Loose Leaf Creative. She's based in Ohio and she did a fantastic job. The other thing, nobody's asked this, but our wedding favors. This was a whole ordeal as well. Initially, I wanted custom embroidered sweatshirts with like a little New York taxi and then like at the back like Cassie and Nee and then the date or whatever, right? Great. So I completely forgot about this, and then it was like 3 weeks before the wedding and I was like, I don't have enough time to get this done to the level that I want it to, whatever. So my mum had also had the idea that like, she was like, you should do custom slippers, the girls' feet will be hurting, let's get those for the dancing and whatever, and people can just take them. I woke up one Monday morning with a ring-a-ding-ding in my head. Now, bear in mind that we're doing the postcards, like it feels very touristy, and I was really like, let's lean into that. We're going to get 110 I Heart New York t-shirts, okay? Very iconic. Christian had the great idea that we should embroider our initials into the red heart of it. Didn't have enough time, excellent idea. If I'd have had time, that would have been perfect. And then I basically designed, on Canva, thank you so much, these custom pizza boxes that I had printed on, what's that one, Vistaprint? These pizza boxes that were like Cassie and Nee, please take home a slice of New York, being the t-shirt. So the t-shirt was inside, they were all labelled with sizes and everything. And then we also had these I Heart New York slippers embroidered to go inside as well. I am over the moon with that, so we did those as favours. Nee's dad was also in Ghana about a week before, and he brought back loads of these like traditional woven hand fans. Also had Ghanaian chocolate. If you didn't know, one of Ghana's big exports is chocolate. So we also had little Ghanaian chocolates flown straight in. So those were our favours. I'm really, really happy with them. I'm sorry, the fans went first, then it was the pizza boxes, then it was the chocolates. But yeah, I'm really happy with those because they felt, I didn't want to give something that was like Cassie and Nee on it. This felt like a fun little thing that was still very us, you know, it had, you know, part of the Ghanaian culture and like a little souvenir of New York, but something that people will actually use. So details about the flower you chose and whether it meant something to me. Like I said, I have not got an idea about the flowers, so it was just, I want an all-white simple bouquet. Great, peonies would look great, fantastic. I also wanted to mention my old, new, borrowed and blue. So my old was, around my bouquet, we tied my dead grandma's, this is my dad's mum's necklace that she wore every day. So that was around the bouquet. The new was the dress, the look, whatever. Borrowed was the cross necklace that I was wearing. That's my mum's cross. Somebody asked where that was from. I think that people want the jewellery details. I can give that to you as well. That's a Costco special, my loves. I've told you. Do not, what's it called, underestimate the Costco jewellery section. The blue was pants. I got special blue knickers. Shout out to Hanky Panky. They do a lovely little bridal set. I think it said Mrs. in crystals on the top of it. How cute. Tell us about the jewellery choices, wedding bands, necklace, earrings, all of that. For down the aisle, I wanted something really simple, so I literally just picked my like simple hoop earrings, diamond hoop earrings from Simon G, and the cross that was my mum's because my something borrowed. For the dancing look, I was like, let's costume jewellery it up. I want to be dripping, and Christian and I went to Swarovski to get the earrings, and then he actually paired the two necklaces together because I was like, I want something over the top. And it was just perfect. Love the look. And these are all things that I'll wear again as well, which is crucial because like so many aspects you're like, oh, I don't think I'll ever wear that again. I'm gonna wear that little white wedding dress again, like, I don't know when, but it's very much wearable. The cape, maybe not. The veil, my dad actually had a good idea that the veil can be turned into like a christening something for my child. If/when that happens. Then let's talk about the wedding band and all of that. I know that you're technically meant to wear wedding band underneath. To me, it doesn't look good the other way, right? So, Concept 26. Nee's band is also Concept 26. His is a yellow gold, but then it has like pave diamonds on the inside, so just like a little bit of bling for him. I think I prefer it the other way. I don't know why. So, Shari is, you know, my quote-unquote jeweller. She's the owner of Concept 26. She did my engagement ring, right? So it was an absolute no-brainer. She took this and she actually sort of like adjusted the band so that it sits flush with the wedding band. I knew that I wanted something bulky and ridiculous. It's dirty because I'm like, you know, sweating and in the sand and whatever, but just, you know, you get the vibe. It's a radiant cut eternity band set in platinum. It's actually double set. So it's set with prongs, but then it's also sort of set in from the back, like almost through a window. So you can bash this about to nobody's end and nothing is going to happen to any of the stones. When we initially started talking about this, she showed me two sizes of diamonds. And I was like, you know me, I'm very much a go big or go home, right? You've seen who my mother is, all right? I saw the big one, I was like, oh, it's got to be the big ones, like they're so fabulous. So my initial plan was to have two bands on either side. But this ended up turning out to be much bigger than it is, because also its setting is quite big, so it makes, like, the whole thing is very chunky, and the setting adds more to the size of it. It was like, no, we do not need to do 2, let's do the 1, and it's perfect, and it's me, because it's sodding loud. This is being moved here. This is the current new setup. My mum told me off because it didn't look right with this one, and we've got to move it and whatever else. So this is the current new setup. Things will be moved around and whatever. What moment pulled your heartstrings the most, where the tears came flowing? It was the speeches. Everybody, actually no, I thought I would cry during my dad's speech, I didn't. My dad's speech was just funny. Nee's speech got me crying. What would be your #1 recommendation to do as the wedding couple? We did dance lessons. Okay, and I know that most people will be like, do a first look, blah, blah, blah. But we took dance lessons. So we had a little bit of an idea what we were doing for first dance. We took 5 dance lessons. Oh my gosh, Impress Ballroom was fantastic. We came with our song, she literally listened to it and was like, right, this is what we're gonna do. We had about 2 minutes of choreography, and it felt very like natural. It wasn't like overly choreographed. We had like little moments of just, you know, feeling the music and everything. But I'm glad we did that, because otherwise we would just be there like, oh, we also had DJs. The only live music we had was the electric violinist, but the DJs, one actually we got from Vegas, because when we were in Vegas ages ago, we went on a night out and he was DJing and he was fantastic. It also happens to be one of Nee's cousin's very good friends. So we got him, and then Nee's cousin is also a really great DJ. I didn't know this. And so he did a set as well, and he was also fantastic. Was there anything traditional that you chose to leave out / change? I didn't throw the bouquet. To be honest with you, I didn't even think about doing it. I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna do this. Where did the person even put the bouquet? Like, I don't know. Is a wedding video worth the cost? I don't know, I've still not seen mine. I assume so. And you know what? It'll just be nice to have that, and that will in itself like spark memories and all this. And I know that some people choose not to have a videographer and everything, and I can sort of see why. It was kind of a no-brainer to us. We were like, we want a photographer, we want a videographer. Done. If I'm comfortable sharing, like, how much did the dress, shoes, veil, and all of that cost? I am like, I never want to be somebody that's like, oh, I spent this much on my wedding outfit. But I also know that it's helpful for people. This is, if I can remember correctly. So I think the dress was about 6, the shoes were about 3.5, the cape was 6, and the veil was maybe like 1,200, something like that. So yeah, so that was the thing, and that's why I'm like, listen, I'll be wearing that dress again. Also, you pay for it in 50%, so it didn't feel all that bad all at once, you know, sort of thing. But it is a hell of a lot of money, it is. And also that's again why I was like, I am not having 2 looks on the day. We are milking this for every sodding penny, sort of thing. Can we see the other dresses you considered? Honestly, I really didn't have any There was one Vivienne Westwood couture dress, but to be honest with you, it wasn't even it was the only one that I really liked at the time. It's very different. It's very different. It's also very risque, but that's not how I would have worn it. It was basically a all lace see-through dress that was like very Victorian. That was literally the only one that I liked anywhere close to what I went for, to be honest with you. But that was couture, and that was like double what I paid for my wedding outfit. That was not even really a consideration. People are also wondering like, how much did everything cost? All of that. And again, please don't see me saying this as like, I blew this much money on my wedding, because this was something that we saved for. You pay things at different times, so it's not like all of this money is coming out at once and all of that. And I also, once again, this is just to be helpful so that people can gauge. I'm not going to give you the exact number. I'm going to say it's 6 figures on the low end. At the sort of beginning of the 6-figure mark. There we go. And hopefully, and to be honest with you, that was cheaper doing the 3 venues than it would have been if we picked one wedding venue in New York that we did everything at. I'm also glad that we did that because it felt, there was no lull at all. It was like very much, there was a flow, we were going here next, we were going here next. But it didn't also feel rushed. Looking at places and it was like, you know, 60,000 minimum spend, but that's the minimum spend, that's before tax, that's before 20% gratuity, that's, you know, and so you're looking at like, okay, so just on, what's it called, the reception venue, you're looking at 80 grand. I hope that that's helpful and you don't feel like I'm just like, I just want to tell you how much I spent, because that's not the case at all. And listen, there have been many things that I wanted to buy and I couldn't, because I was saving for this sodding wedding. About halfway through I turned to Nia and I said, it was worth every penny. And I had been bitching about this. I was like, oh my gosh, I just want to scrap it, blah blah blah, all this money, it's going to be a massive waste. I could have, you know, bought much more fun things. Who was I talking to? I'm going to do a video on like, there's like 2 bags that I ended up declining because of the wedding and amongst other reasons. And I was like, you know, a wedding is one day, a bag is forever. But yes, as soon as we were like, when we got to the reception, I literally turned in, I was like, it was worth every penny. I was like, I know. So yeah. What happened to looking at venues in Vegas? Yeah, basically, they gave us one quote for the area. And then when the contract came, there was an extra $20,000 on that quote. And we were like, hold on a second, what is that for? So there was that. There was also the fact that for 110 people, they didn't have a ceremony room big enough. So they were like, we do have a non-traditional venue. That non-traditional venue was a club. So there would have had to be a lot of decor and draping to make it not look like people are sitting in sodding bottle booths, clapping, you know. So yeah, it was just like a few things that were just like, do you want to know what? This is more, it's not turning into the wedding that I thought that I wanted. So let's just regroup. And so New York came up. Did I have a bridal party? No. I knew that I just wanted a maid of honor who sadly couldn't make it, and she like had a very, very, very legitimate reason. So like, don't worry, Parisa and I, it's not an issue. And Nee was just going to have a best man. The thing with Nee is that if Nee has a groom's party, he's going to be rolling 20 deep, right? And it was just going to be ridiculous. So it was like, okay, let's just choose one each, and then that's what we did. And I mean, like, yeah, it was very easy. There was no drama from that aspect. I've heard of people doing drama from there, and it's just like, it's just not like worth it really. Finally, how did you decide where to go for your honeymoon? We initially wanted to do Japan, and then we left it so late that honestly the flight prices were astronomical. And then it was like, okay, Nee was very adamant on, we should go somewhere that neither of us have been. And so we were like, okay, because I was like, I want to go to Hawaii. I love Hawaii. Fun fact about me, possibly the best place I've ever been on earth. I love it there. It's heaven. Anyway, so I was fighting for Hawaii, and he was like, well, we've already been to Hawaii and we can go to Hawaii again. Let's go somewhere that we've not been. And so he then floated the idea of Jamaica. I really, to be honest with you, hadn't done much research on even like hotels or where to stay or the different areas and all of this. So Nee came up with it. I'm staying at Round Hill, and tomorrow we move to Goldeneye. Round Hill is beautiful. It's a 4-hour flight from New York. It's glorious. The interiors are designed by Ralph Lauren. He has a villa on the estate. You can do a villa tour for all of the other villas, or if you have like a big family that you're coming with, stay in a villa. It's beautiful, the food is great. They also, if you want to go out into town and explore, you just tell them, they bring you a car and all of that. It's just like, every aspect is, here's another example. Nee asked for barbecue sauce at dinner, and they were taking a while to get it. And when they came back, they were like, oh, so sorry that it's taken a while. We didn't have any, so we made some. That's the level of service here. Okay, fantastic. We move to Goldeneye tomorrow, which is owned by the owner of Island Records. It's also where Ian Fleming wrote all the James Bond novels. And it's somewhere that, like, I think because my dad knew about this, Goldeneye and Jamaica has always sort of been planted in my head. So I was like, oh, if I ever go to Jamaica, I want to go to Goldeneye. And that's also meant to be beautiful. We're staying in a lagoon cottage. And it comes with a kayak. I don't know if I can be trusted in any of those things, but we'll give it a good go. So yeah, cannot recommend Jamaica, specifically Round Hill, enough. But yeah, guys, I hope that I covered everything. Let me know any other questions in the comments in case there was anything else big that I completely just missed out. But hopefully that was really helpful. And thank you guys for being so kind and supportive and wanting to learn more, and just like, everybody's been so lovely about it. And that's great, because it was such a special day for us, and I'm glad that I was able to sort of put that across in the vlog, and it just felt so us. and I felt like my dress was so me, and yeah, all of my strife was worth it. There we go. I'm going to leave a link to another video if you haven't already seen it. Have an amazing morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, and in the words of my father,
if you've enjoyed it, tell your friends. If you haven't, keep your mouth shut.
I'll see you in my next video. Mwah. Bye guys.